human resource management, units of business ethics, business management ethics, and communication. And here we should see what is the concept of management and objectives of management. So according to Kuhn O'Donnell, management means getting things done through and with people. So basically what they're talking about, management means you have to get the things done through others. So you are managing the work with the help of the people. So that is what Kuhn O'Donnell is talking about. And Henry Fayol says to manage is to forecast and to plan, organize, to command and to coordinate. So according to Henry Fayol, so management means it refers to the functions of management. That means if you have to forecast, you have to plan, organize, command, and to coordinate. So all the functions of management is referred as a management according to Henry Fayol. And what are the objectives of management? Why we have to study the management? So why we have to implement the management is that maximum output with minimum effort. So when you manage things, when you plan well, when you coordinate well, when you decide well in advance with a decision variable, then you can maximize the output. You will get a synergy and with a minimum effort. And without plan, without proper management, you will not be able to maximize your return, maximize your output. So that is the reason it's very, very important. So objectives of a management is to maximize output with limited or less resources or less efforts. And optimum use of resources, that means, see, when you manage well, when you think well in advance, what is our capacity, what is our limitation, everything you think about it, and then you decide, you can avoid your wastages. When we avoid the wastages, and that itself is an added advantage to the organization. And maximum prosperity. So management always brings the prosperity because your wastage is reduced, and it is not time consuming. You plan well and execute in a better way, effectively and efficiently. So obviously the organization and human betterment and social justice. So management, when you see, as I have seen in the previous objectives, so human betterment. So when you are conscious about scarce resources, and when you don't repeat the work unnecessarily, so that itself you are collaborating with the society. And social justice, you are conscious about not to waste the water, not to waste the environment, not to effect on the environmental and all those things. So that itself shows that it is management helpful in human betterment and social justice. And what is the nature of management, whether it's a science or an art or a profession? So that is what we are going to see. So management itself is a certain principles, like as we have a physics, chemistry, and then they are also referring as a social sciences, like a behavior of human resources. So it is considered as a science. Science means it has a principles in philosophy that you are studying as it is. And it is also considered as an art. So why it is considered as an art? Because art is always application of the principle on a given situation. So here what happened, the principles are there. The principles we are not going to follow abruptly. We are going to alter it, and we are going to see how that can be applicable to our organization under given situation or under given conditions. So that is what is an art. And at the last, management is also considered as a profession. So why it is considered as a profession? Because to be a manager, you need to have certain qualities, and you need to have certain qualification, how you take the things ahead. So that is why it is also considered as a profession. So now management is a combination of all. You cannot say it's only a science or it's only an art, it's only a profession. So here what happens, a manager should have the principles and philosophies of the concepts, and he should also know how to apply that principles in an organization. And the last one is a combination of science and art in a given condition in his organization is called as a profession. How? In his personal capabilities and personal capacity, how he is implementing, that is what is called as a profession. So management is also considered as a profession. So now by this time we know, so management is a combination of science, art, and a management profession. And then when it comes to schools of management thoughts, different schools of management thoughts are there. So management thoughts, how it's evolved over a period of time. So that is what we are going to see. So there are 4 schools. Great. Where we left, and major schools of thoughts, here no we have five schools of thoughts. One is talking about classical school, and classical school defines scientific management, bureaucratic management, and administrative management. And basically what they are emphasizing, managing the workers and organization more efficiently. So that is a classical schools of thoughts of management. So they're talking about, so you have to manage the work, manage the workers to get the work done effectively and efficient way. So unless you manage the workers, you will not be able to get the things done in an expected way. So that is the philosophy of the classical schools of thoughts. And what is the behavioral thoughts? Behavioral thoughts talking about human relation and behavioral science. So what they are talking about, don't treat the employees like an asset, and they are themselves is a resource for the organization. So understanding the human behavior within the organization. So how do you understand the behavior of the employees? So what is their motivation, their purpose, how what is their leadership skills, how you can impart the training? So those kind of things they were talking about. And one of the biggest training is that Elton Mayo's training method, so that we will be seeing in the human resource management. And what is the quantitative schools of management? Management as a science and operation management, management information system. So here they are talking about increasing the quality of the managerial decision making through the application of mathematical and statistical methods. So quantitative method, so management decision need to be collaborated with the principles of mathematics and statistical sciences. And when it comes to system schools, so system schools after 1950, it started after 1950, and what they are understanding there, what is their philosophy is that management is a system, an organization is a system, combination of internal and external environment. So that system employee has to adopt it. So that is what understanding the organization as a system that transform inputs into output while in a constant interaction with its environment. So whenever whatever input that you are giving, that is to attainment of the organization goal, and that needs to be in line with the environment in which the management or organization is associated with. And contingency schools talks about applying management principles and processes as dictated by unique characteristics of each situation. So contingency, you can say that contingency means it is a condition by which, so in case your decision, if it is a positive decision or a negative decision, right, that's based on a condition. So decision making or in an organization depending on the condition of the existing environment. So that is the fifth schools of thoughts. And when it comes to functions of management, Luther Gulick. So this is a very important thing. They are repeatedly asking questions in your examination. So what is the functions of management? So functions of management can be defined by the Luther Gulick as a post corp, means planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, and reporting and budgeting. So where I have put the this red line, this it talks about process of management. So process of management does not include reporting and budgeting, but functions of management includes reporting and budgeting. And you should know to differentiate process and functions of management. Process means only it starts from the planning and ends at the coordination. So that's it. The function of a management, a process of management ends at the coordination, but the functions of a management, as per the Luther Gulick, it ends at the budgeting. And what is a scientific management? Scientific management theory was propounded by Frederick W. Taylor, and he has a four principles of scientific management, that is scientifically study each part of the job and develop the best way of deciding doing it. So here what they, hello sir, can everybody hear now? Checkbox. Scientific management was propounded by Frederick W. Taylor, and Taylor was talking about, see, the four principles of scientific management. First, you have to define and study and define each job before doing it, before allotting to somebody. So then only you can do the best way of doing it. So first you have to find out, you have to define the particular job before doing it, and then carefully select and train the workers. So based on the purpose of our objective, based on the job design and job specification, you choose the opt worker, and then cooperate with worker to ensure they use the proper method. So they have to apply and they have to adopt the organization objective, vision, mission in order to execute the work through proper methods which are trained by the organization to the employee. Divide work and responsibility between the worker and manager. So here what happened, any organization, no, you have to define your responsibility, because without responsibility nobody will be doing effective work. So what happens, see, if work is defined, then you have to be given responsibility, which means what, you have to do certain works within this particular period, and for which you will be compensated. And in case if you are not your performance is not well, then you will not be compensated, and you are, in turn you are responsible to the management for not completing the work which are assigned to you. So that these are the four principles was defined by the Frederick W. Taylor. And Frederick W. Taylor is also famous for piece rate, differential piece rate system. Differential piece rate, he is talking about, you have a two rate, one is fixed rate, other one is floating rate. This also compensation also defined by Frederick W. Taylor. So this kind of question can be asked. So the scientific management propounded by Frederick Taylor, one who is outperforming, you have to pay premium compensation. They have to give normal, and above normal salary you have to give flexible compensation. That is his philosophy. And when it comes to so the same thing, and then Henry Fayol's 14 principles. See, these 14 principles, they are repeatedly asking particular concepts. So you should understand each concept. So what is the division of work? You have to divide the work, give to the people, and authority and responsibility. Authority and responsibility. When you give the work, what is their authority means a power. What is their power and what is their responsibility, right? And then discipline should be brought to the workers, and unity of command and unity of direction. So command and direction should come from one person. If it comes from more than one person, there will be a confusion, and the workers may not be able to know where they will end up. And subordination of individual interest. So you should also understand the interest of the subordinates and assign the work accordingly to the maximum possible. You cannot give the work to all the employees of their interest. So you have to at least satisfy their interests. And then you see, for all the work you are giving, you have to pay the employee well. So if you pay the employee well, they'll be happy, they'll work for us, and they'll work in a very effective way. So compensation and a remuneration is very, very important. And the degree of centralization. So centralization means what happened? You have a center head. So you have your every employee has to report it to a particular person. So that is a centralization, right? A centralization, degree of centralization, to what extent your department or organization is centered to a particular person with whom a delegation of power, authority, and responsibility is vested with. And line of authority, scalar chain. So scalar chain basically talks about, under every supervisor, how many employee subordinate can be handled. So this is a individual capacity, how many number of subordinate can be managed by a particular manager. That is what is called as a scalar chain. So this question also is asked, what is scalar chain? Scalar chain means how a manager or a supervisor, how many number of subordinates can be managed by a particular single manager. That is what is a scalar chain. And order, things should be kept in order, and work should be kept in order, documents should be kept in order, so that things should be orderly arranged. Organization should be orderly arranged. And equity means what? You should treat employee equally. So that is a equity principle. Stability of tenure of personnel. See what happened now, when you are employing, their tenure should be, that is social security. So when your job is permanent and you'll be free from tension, so the employee can outperform, right? So you have to give a kind of assurance to the worker that the stability of tenure of the personnel. So you have when an employee comes, right, to the organization, their tenure should be fixed in the sense it's permanent kind of post. And then initiative, so you have to give initiative measures. So initiative means you should lead, a manager should lead, initiate, and they should be a role model to the organization, right? So that is the initiative. And then esprit de corps is otherwise called as a team spirit, and group cohesiveness, group coordination. So that these are the 14 principles propounded by Henry Fayol. So you should remember two authors by this now, and one is Henry Fayol's 14 principles and scientific management propounded by Frederick W. Taylor. And then contribution to the behavioral psychologists and sociologists. So now you see Hawthorne experiment. So it's an experiment conducted by Elton Mayo, and they have studied the human behavior by studying their capacity in a behavioral way. And then this behavioral science is always concerned with human behavior in organization and related matters. How the employees are working in the organization, with work, without work, with more work, pressure, and all those things they were studying. And what is a system theorist? System theorist organization is an open, adaptive system subject to all the pressures and conflicts of the environment. So what happened? What is a system? System means it includes external environment. It is not, we should not consider only internal environment. It includes internal and external environments all put together. What is the condition? So that is a system. So organization itself is a system where every employee has to adopt to that system. And psychologists and sociologists, so they are talking about management is a concept of, it's based on a psychology and sociology of the employees within the organization, how they work. So here they are talking about dynamics of the organization and group dynamics, organizational conflict, right? If there is any conflict among the employee and among the employer and employer, and what is the change management? So change means whether the employees are adaptive to the technological change. Right now, recently, this pandemics are taking place. So whether the employees are adopting to work from home culture. So those kind of things comes under change techniques of organizational development. So organizational development, how organization can be developed within the organization with the help of the laborers, workers. So that is, so these are the authors who propounded the psychological and sociological concept of management. And this concept talks about administrative and management. So what is administration and management? That is what we are going to see in the slide. And what is administrative and management includes? So administrative management, when you say in a square, it is equal. Administrative and management is equal. So 50-50% we can define. So administrative and management includes policy determination and policy amendment. So it's basically organization policy is always defined and defined by the administration and management, that is top level. And they do the planning and they determine the standards. So what is our company standard, right? What is expected from the employees? So these are the policies defined by the top level management. What is operative management? Operative management includes use of machine material, that is middle level and low level. So but administrative and management is always top level. Operative, it is implementation of such policy defined by administrative and management. And implementation of the policies, directions of routine tasks. So how directions are given towards achievement of the organization objective. And when it comes the skills required for administrative and management and operative skills, so you can see from top level should have maximum skill, that is strategic skills. It is otherwise called as a concept, right? Concept, but they need to have a very minimum technical skills. And middle level should have all equal technical skill, human skill, as well as strategic, that is conceptual skill. Supervisory level, supervisory means what? Low level. Low level employees should have more of a technical knowledge, than any other things. So, and then when it comes to voice is not clear. Can you hear now? Can you hear now? And then you can see here the important thing they are talking about is that human skill is required of all the stages, all the steps. Human skills are very much essential, so that you have to remember. So technical and conceptual skills, technical and conceptual skills are maximum to the low, depending on the low level and top level. But human resources, human skills is required. That is why HRM is always considered to be the pervasive. What is the pervasive? It is applicable in everywhere, equally important. So that is why in the green color you can see it is equally in all the levels of the management. That skill is required to be given more importance to the human skills. And when it comes to planning, right? A concept of planning. So what is a planning? Planning is selecting and relating of facts and making and using of assumptions regarding the future in the visualization and formulation of proposed activities believed necessary to achieve desired results. So planning means what? Thinking in advance. How you will think in advance? By assuming certain things, right? If see what happened, if we are going for examination and we prepare something, what we are deciding, what will be my reaction if this particular question comes, what will be my reaction if particular question doesn't come. So we, based on the presumptions, we prepare for examination. And features of planning is an intellectual process. So you have to use your brain, right? Intellectually you have to use the process. So intellectual process. And then it is a primary functions of a management. And then continuous functions. So if planning, when you do planning, you have to do continuously, and you cannot do one side and then you cannot say it's a primary functions of the management, and it's a continuous function. So what is a continuous function? Continuous functions means once you start a plan, and you should continue in executing. That means when you plan for something, and you should make sure that particular plan till the implementation you have to carry forward. That is why it is considered to be the continuous function. What is a pervasive function? Pervasive means planning is everywhere. It is applicable everywhere, from a low level to the top level. So planning is everywhere. Planning needs to be implemented at every levels, every departments, every parts of the organization we have to include. And then what is the importance of planning? Planning reduces uncertainty. So see, when you are while preparing for an event, when you assume things, then you can remove the negativities. So when you remove the negativity, so you are reducing the uncertainty of the future events. It makes objective clear and specific. When you think in advance, you can very specifically you will prepare. And planning brings economy in operation. So when you plan, you can avoid the unnecessary wastages, not only in cost but also in time. And planning provides the basis of control. When you plan and you have a planned procedure, and when things are not going according to your plan, you can control it because you have a blueprint of your plan. And it establishes unity and coordination. So when you have a plan procedure, planning, it helps to who should coordinate and how to coordinate. It brings unity among the employees within the organization. Planning takes optimum utilization of available resources. So as I have already stated, it helps to remove wastages, avoid wastages, and to work effectively and efficiently. And planning helps to control hasty decisions. So planning, what happens, you know what you are taking, why you are taking, how you are taking, with a decision variable, right? So planning always gives you the decision variable, and when you take the decision, and most of the time it will not go wrong. And for development of the organization, planning is always for the development, because everybody wants to develop. As an individual, from those who are doing foundation course, you want to go for a executive. Those who are doing executive, want to go for a professional. It's the same way organization. Those who are having operation of 100 crores, 10 crore, they want to go maximize 20 crore, 20 crore to 40 crore. So they always wanted to develop. Organization development is always a primary objective. And limitation of the planning, uncertainty of future events. So you cannot predict the futures, right? So that's very difficult thing. So that is one of the limitation. And planning, it takes time as well as cost. Who should plan? So somebody who has an intellectual knowledge. So you have to appoint certain statistician and expert to predict probability, because you have to use the probability in the case of certainty even, and you have to predict a lot of statistical tools you have to use. So those who have economists who can forecast, who can plan, so you have to pay salary, and it takes a lot of time and energy. And lack of accuracy, planning never gives you accurate that if you take this decision it will happen. It is always, when you plan, there is a error term. Error term means what? To the maximum possible it will work. And what is the percentage of non performance? So that is a limitations. Difficulty in the selections of the best alternatives. So you see, planning gives you decision variable, it doesn't give you decisions, right? So in that case, what happened? You have a problem. So what is the problem? Your problem is, when you have so many alternatives, you are confused with which decision to be taken, and the limited flexibility. So once you do planning, no, you cannot alter it as and when required, because your plan is already sent to many people. And then psychological barriers. So psychological barrier, every individual will plan capacity and capabilities. And then the types of plans. So basically, plans can be defined, classified into two. So that is single standing plan and single use plan. So these plans are always based on the objective. So what is objective? The end towards which not only planning but all other activities of the management are directed. Which means what? Objective means the objective of the organization. Generally, objectives of the organization is maximizing the profit, right? Maximizing the profit, maximizing the output with the limited resources. So in that okay, you see, there are a lot of questions are coming. What I will do, you keep posting it, because we have to finish the syllabus. Then towards the end, I will clarify all the questions. Okay, because if I start answering the questions, because there are so many questions have come, so it will be difficult for me to complete the syllabus. So I'll complete the syllabus, then we will have the question answer session at the end. So even after 1:45 we can have the session. So I am free. So after 1:45 we can have adjust the timing of the technical issues. Okay. And then objective means what? Objectives of the organization. What is objective of the organization? Maximizing the organization profit, because every organization is working towards the profit maximization only, wealth maximization only. So in that case, whatever is the company's or organization's objective, that is end result. So towards which, so that is what is called as objective. So based on the objective, you can have two plans. So that is standing plan and single use plan. So standing plans is a permanent one. Permanent means what? Used over and over again. So that can be kept confidential, kept for many years. But in the case of single use plan, it is used for a specific purpose, specific period. So it is only for this particular year or this particular product or this particular department. So that is what is a single use plan. So standing plans are of policies, procedures, rules, and methods. What is policies? Policies are guide to think in decision making. So what is a policy? When you take your decision, that decision should be based on the company's policy. What is company's policy? Company will pay the debt after 1 month. The credit policy, that company's credit policy is always pay the debts after 15 days or after 13 days. So whatever decision making you take, that decision should be based on the policy of the organization, and that policy is a permanent one, right? Unless and otherwise there is a environment or situation changes. Otherwise, this policy is same throughout. What is the procedure? Exact manner in which particular activity is to be done. So procedure means a particular activity is has to be done through a particular way. So that is what is a procedure. So the system by which you have to execute the work. What is the rules? Rules, otherwise called as a kind of regulation. So you have to abide by the rules of the organization. Like say for example, while entering to the manufacturing units, you have to wear safety gloves, safety shoes. Now at present, what is the rules? During the COVID, you have to wear the face mask, face shield, gloves you have to wear, and you should not touch. You have to keep sanitizing your hands, right? So those are the rules. So those are the regulation which employees have to follow. And what are the methods? Methods are single operation or one particular step and specifies how this step is to be followed, right? So that is the method. So how a particular step and that has to be followed. So that has to be implemented. That's it. And what is a single use plan? Single use plan is used for a particular or specific period or a event or a department. So here we have a programs and schedules. So what is the programs and schedules? Outlines of a plan or of work to be carried out in a proper sequence. A program means you have a sequence. So you see in every colleges you have a program. So you have a sequence. What is the sequence? There is a welcome speech, there is a prayer song, there will be a prize distribution, and there is a end national anthem. So that is a sequence. So things are kept in a sequence order. That is what is called as a program. So which means when you are starting your work, you have to start with this and end with this. And then in mediation, what are the liberty that you have? That is what. And what is the strategy? Strategy is useful framework for guiding enterprise thinking and action, which means strategy. It arrived from the military operations, which means how we are going to win over your competitor with your limited resources. So that is how this term strategy came into existence. And what is a budget? Budget is a single-use plan containing expected result in numerical terms. So whatever expected result, no budget, we put it in a numerical terms. So budget, see for employing so many workers, company need cost to the company is so much. So everything numerically you put, and you want to go for a research and development of a new particular product. So there, what is the salary to be given to the research assistant or a researcher, and then what are the expenses that a particular research is having? All these things you are considered as a budget. And then steps and planning. So steps and planning, what happens? So first you have to define, and then setting objectives or goals. First you have to identify the problems. You have to identify the problems, and then setting objectives or goals, and then considering the planning premises. As I told in the meaning of the planning means it's thinking in advance with the condition of the assumptions. So premises means what are the assumptions? Possible assumptions, possible probabilities that you consider, and then from that possibility you identify the alternatives. With the probability you have a limited limitations. So based on the limitation you identify what are the possibilities are there, that is identifying alternative. So after identifying the alternatives, you have to comparing alternatives in the light of goal sort. So all the alternatives, you have a multiple alternative, whether it is these alternatives are in line with the goals in the second step which we have identified, right, which are company's objective, whether these alternatives are in line with the objectives or goals defined by the organization. So after that, choosing an alternative. So if it is okay, then you have more than one alternative is in accordance with the objectives of the organization, then you evaluate which will be the better one over the other. Based on that you choose one, and formulating supporting plans, and then numbering plans by making budgets. The last one is you make a budget, because the starting plans, you make a budget, how much will it be cost to the company, that you do. And then what is the basic difference between planning and forecasting? So I said planning is thinking in advance. So forecasting is a first step of planning. So without forecasting, you cannot plan it. So the basic forecasting is you assume future events. So that is what is a forecasting. So now you can see basis for planning, basis for future plan of action, that is planning. And in the case of forecasting, no decision can be taken without help of forecasting. So your forecasting means what? Who can do forecasting? Statisticians, mathematicians, and then economists. So they use the statistical probabilistic methods through which you can predict the models. So without an expert, you cannot decide. But helps to arrive at certain decision planning. You don't need, without even technical terms, you can decide your plan. You can plan, right? You and me can plan how to prepare for examination and how to succeed the examination, right? And those are the ways. And you, many people know, you make schedules for preparation, right? Timetable for preparation, morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours. Those are planning you and me can do. And we don't use statistical techniques and mathematical principles in planning premises. And forecasting is done at the middle or lower level of the management, but planning is always done at the top levels of management, right? And then few members are involved in the case of forecasting. Not every employees are involved, but planning done at the top, so large number of persons. So planning is applicable to the entire organization and does not stimulate activities among the employees. So forecasting, only few people are there, so all the employees are not involved. But in the case of stimulate some activities to achieve the objectives. Tools for planning. So forecasting is a tool for planning. So without forecasting, planning cannot be done. But planning can take place without forecasting. So not a tool for forecasting, but forecasting is a tool for planning. And now we are moving to what is a decision making. So decision making is basically talks about decision making signifies actual selection of the course of action from among a number of alternatives. So decision making, basically you have um, multiple alternative, you decide, right? You decide, you make a decision based on your company's policy, company's mission, company's ultimate goal, right? Decision making permits planning, organizing, controlling, and all other functions of management. So what it says, decision making, no, it is the end stage of management. What does that mean? You do planning, you do organizing, you do controlling, but at the end, what you do, you have to take the decision in connection with, in line with the organization's goal. Since decision making involves selection from among the alternatives, the course of action to be followed, it is better regarded as part of the planning process. And what are the conditions in which decision making can be taken? And under, there are three conditions. One is certainty. Certainty means what? You can predict to some extent. You can predict to some extent what is going to happen, right? So now you can see that when you are planning to go for a tour, right? When you are planning to go for a tour, and that time you can say that what are the possibilities of the hindrances that a traveler can face, so that you predict. That prediction is certainty. So based on the certainty, you can decide, okay, if somebody who is going for a long journey, and somebody who is going to Shimla, and you need to have a sweater and all those things. So you have a certainty. Based on the certainty, based on the assumptions of a probability of happening, then you decide. What is a risk? Risk means you don't know the probability, and you don't use your past experience, and you take a decision. That is a risk. And what is uncertainty? You don't know any decision variable, you cannot predict it. That is only uncertainty. But you use your previous experience, that is uncertainty. And the principles of decision making. So principles of decision making, no, you should define your decision, because you cannot take a hazard decision. Your decision should be definitive, and then your decision should be evidence based. Evidence based means, see, I am taking this particular decision because the external environments are not congenial. See, our examinations are clubbed, right? CS examinations, June examinations are clubbed with the December examination. So that is evidence-based decision. What is evidence-based? Because of ongoing pandemics of COVID-19, this the probability of conducting exam is very low. So that is why we are clubbing the June exam to December. So that is evidence based. The decision should be based on the evidence. And identity. What is identity? Identity means the uniqueness of your decision. So how you are taking your own unique decisions. You should not just copy, because every decision is based on the environment, right? Every company, every organization decision need not be followed by organization, because the organization environment, the organization culture, the objectives and goals of the organization, it keeps differentiated from one company to another company, one organization to another organization. So steps in decision making. So when you decide something, what are the things you should keep in mind? But as we have studied in the planning, first you have to identify the problem and establish the decision criteria, weigh the decision criteria, what is the maximum, weigh the decision criteria, which is important, which is most important, which is least important, how a particular problem is going to affect the implementation of the goals, and then generate alternatives, evaluate the alternatives. After, when you have a generate alternative means what, you have a multiple alternatives based on the weighing the decision criteria, and then when you have a multiple alternatives, you evaluate each one based on your objective, based on your goal, based on your decision criteria, and then choose the best alternative from the evaluated alternatives. Then after choosing, implement the decision, evaluate the decision. After implementation, it is very much necessary that you should evaluate. How you have to evaluate whether I have taken the decision, that decision is in line with whether it is successful or not. So that is what we have to see at the last stage. And now moving forward, what is organization? Organization means what is an enterprise where group of persons are engaged, right? So what it refers to a collective group of person engaged in pursuing specified objective. So group of people working towards attainment of a particular goal is the place in which all the group of people attaining, working towards attainment of the goal of the organization is called as the organization. The behavioral scientist and the sociologist is comprises human relationship in a group activity. It is referred to as the social system encompassing all formal relationships. So all the formal relationship, including social relationship, is called as an organization. It is an essential function of management. Organizing is a very, very essential function, because you put things in order, organized way, right? Who should do what work and where things should take place. So who should report it? So everything is defined under organization. It consists of division of work among people and coordination of their activities towards some common objectives. So it is not only division of work, who should do, how much they should do, but also their activities towards some common objectives. So every objective is interrelated, and that interrelated works, activities are in line with the organization objectives. And then importance of organization, it facilitates administration. So organization helps the administration, because what happened, it gives in order who should do what work, how it particular work should be done, who should be promoted, right? Who should be compensated more, who should be working towards the achievement, who is hardworking. So all the things are defined. Facilitates growth and diversification. So it is not only the employees growth, but also organization growth. And when organization development comes, obviously diversification can take place. See, for example, if a company is running only one particular product, the growth will give them a choice to diversify their business in a other product, not in a going in a horizontal way, vertical way, but it gives you a choice to go on a horizontal, that is sideway, right? And then stimulates creativity, permits optimum use of resources. So it helps to maximize organization. When you organize, it helps to maximize maximum use of scarce resources, and it, because you have a limitations of resources, so it gives you a creativity. When you have a limitation, you think out of the box, right? So that is, it helps the management, it helps the worker to think creatively, and encourages synergy effect. So when you synergy effect means what, generally synergy means what, no, two people are working, two companies are working. The best example is this, we can consider a company, two transport companies are working, two buses are running from Pondicherry to Chennai or Chennai to Calcutta. But here what happened, instead of two companies transports are running separately, these two companies join together, that one transport can be avoided, that is fixed cost can be avoided, so maximize the profit. So synergy, basically they call it as 2 plus 2 equal to 5. What does that mean? When two companies join together, they get one extra point of advantage. So that is what is synergy effect. Transfer and adaptation of technology. So our organization always helps to adopt to a technology, helps to combine, helps to adopt, combine the technology. Now you see all the classes are taking place through online. So organization, when it develops, so obviously it helps to adopt to the technology. And steps in process of organization. So again, see, almost the steps no is very common. See, determination of objective, identifying and grouping of activity, which are the activities are even, that is we are going to identify, okay, these are the purchase related activities, so these should come in a purchase department. These are research related activities, these are research department. These are sales department. So you are grouping the activity and naming, and then allotment of duties. So based on their activity, you allot their duties. So each person, what is their duty, what is their responsibility, and developing relationship among the employees. And then integration of activity, integrate all the activity towards the objectives of the organization. And then these are the organization structure. What is the organization structure? Organization structure is how this authority and responsibility, the flow of authority and responsibility is executed among the employees of the organization. So the first chart talks about here, this chart talks about line and staff organization. Line organization is considered to be very strict organization, simple. It always authority and responsibility comes from the top to down. So that is a line organization. Here you can see, here you can see a complete continuous line talks about line authority, but where dotted line talks about staff authority. What is staff authority? Staff authority in consultation with the other, that is integration of every unit are in consultation, integrated towards the achievement of the objective. So you have a line organization and line and staff organization. Line means very strict, the flow always comes from the top to down, and the reporting also top down to up. But in the case of line and staff organization, it is mixed, how you can go horizontally as well as you can go in a vertical. And when it comes to functional relationship, so functional organization talks about the organization is defined based on the functions of a department. Say for example, a product department is defined division product X, division product Y, and division product Z. So here each product has different R&D, manufacturing, marketing, and finance. So in this way, what happened? The based on the functions, the organization structure is defined. What is a project organization? Project organization is a temporary. So project means what? You take a temporary event for achievement of a temporary event that might be part of the organization, or sometimes might be long term also. But project is always for a specific event. Say for example, when a company is going to plan for a launching of a new product, right? New product. So there, that event is considered as a project. So here what happened? You have a different department for that particular project. So projects organization structure has a specific responsibility, specific events, and it is only for temporary. And once the project goal is achieved, the structure is demolished. But in the case of functional foremanship, functional organization, it is established throughout the organization. And what is a matrix organization? Matrix organization is a combination of functional organization and matrix organization, which means it is function as well as project, right? So this both combination called as a matrix. So that is why you can see this red line. So it is every event is considered as a matrix. So you can see square, square. So now it is interrelated. So all the events or for execution of a one particular work, it is always one man, that is manufacturing unit of a manufacturing manager is also related to manager project C as well as sales unit. So here each event, each and every unit has squared. So it is kind of a matrix. And what is a, so all these five methods, no, here I said line organization, line and staff organization, functional organization, and project organization. Fifth one is matrix organization. All the five organizations are formal organization. What is a formal organization? It is defined and it is seen, right? It is executed. What is the informal organization? You don't have any specific organization structure through which reporting and all takes place. So that is why here you can see that individual means this in each round, each circle is considered to be the individual. Each vertical line is considered as a dotted line, vertical line or dotted line, that is top to bottom, that is vertical. And what is horizontal? That is continuous line is called as a horizontal group, that is manufacturing department to a production department to purchase department, sales department, marketing department. So it goes in a horizontal way. And here what happened when it combines all the events, that is vertical and horizontal, then it is called as a formal organization. When it does not have any formal structure of an event or flow of authority or delegation of power, then it is called as a informal organization. So informal organization means what? There is no centralized events, right? There is no centralized authority. So that is informal organization. Informal organization means what? Each department have been given their own responsibility, and they have to take the responsibility also. That is what is a informal organization. And now whenever we talk about organizations, it is always, I said, authority and responsibility. So when you say authority and responsibility, people always delegate the power, delegate the work from top level to down, but they never take the responsibility. But it is implied that whenever you delegate your authority, the responsibility you are not delegating, because when a work is given to X, it is X's responsibility to achieve, to execute the work and get the things done. If he fail to work, and because he has delegated, and he has to take the responsibility, that is the thing. So now what is the basic difference between authority, responsibility and accountability? So what is authority? Power to spend money on a particular, for a particular project. So we take a particular project. The project is what? Development of a product, right? To develop a product, okay, you are authorized to spend money to whatever money you have to spend to develop a particular model. So that product, you can take it as a mobile. To develop a mobile, you have to develop a new mobile, and for which you are authorized to spend so much of money. And what is the responsibility? It is the obligation to finish on time. So the work is given, the authority is given to you. Your responsibility is to work, finish the work on time. And then what is accountability? Accountability is always linked with responsibility. Those with responsibility should be held accountability. So whoever has a responsibility, they are made accountable. Positive consequences for finishing on time, that is promotional activities, and negative consequences for not finishing on time, that is penalizing. So this is called as accountability. And what is delegation? Delegation means what? Delegation means giving somebody's work or power to take decision from one person to another person. So that is what is a delegation. So what is the process of delegation? First, you have to assignment of task. What is the task you are assigning to somebody? And when you assign the work, delegation of decision making authority also. It is not only getting the work done, and when you delegate, the person who is going to execute it, he has a certain power to decide on his own. And the third one is creation of obligation. In case if you don't execute it properly, and you should take the responsibility, you have to face the consequences for non-performance, right? And creation of accountability, and how much is you are accountable. So that is also defined. Generally, delegation is not taking place in this proper way because they have barriers of delegation. What are the barriers? Fear of loss of power. What happens if I delegate my power to somebody and they become the a key factor, key person of the management, and my work will be transferred to the other person if he performs better than me. So that is always a fear of loss of power. And certain personal attitude. What is a personal attitude? I myself is a manager. Why should I go and get opinion from so and so? Right. So that is a personal attitude. I don't want to do it, and I don't want to delegate, and I don't want to define anything. It's my work. I will do it. So that is a personal attitude, lack of ability to direct well. So they don't have a power to direct. So there are many people who do their work properly, but they are very poor in training the other people, right? Whatever they are doing, it is very difficult for them to explain it, right? So that is a limitation. And now we are going to see the difference between delegation and decentralization. So delegation is, nature of delegation is individual. It usually involves two persons, supervisor and the subordinates. But decentralization talks about it is totalistic in nature, involves delegation from top management and the department or division of sectional leaders. What is a control? Control rests with the delegator or the supervisor only because only two people are involved. But decentralization, because you are delegating the work to the each and every department, so that department will take the responsibility. Need delegation is essential to get things done by others. Unless authority is delegated, it will be difficult to assign responsibility. But decentralization is optional because it depends upon the philosophy of management. Top management may or may not dispense with the authority. They only give the work, but authority they don't transfer. They only delegate the work. And responsibility in delegation, responsibility remains with the delegator, right? That is, when I'm transferring the work, I'm only transferring the work, and the responsibility I should take it. In case if the work is not done, I should take the responsibility for consequences for non-performance. In decentralization, heads of each department is responsible for all activity because being performed under him, he is required to show better performance because the delegation complete authority is given to them and complete decision making is given to them and they have to show their responsibility. And relationship, delegation creates superior subordinates relationship, right? Because I am your boss. When I order, when I give my work, you should do it. But in the case of decentralization, it is steps towards formation of semi-autonomous units, right? See, today we have too much of work. So now what happens? We are going to divide, right? Because decentralization, the goal is important and who is doing is not important because it is given for a specific department. So that is what they executed. Centralization versus decentralization, you can see centralization means you have one particular authority to whom all other subordinates have to report it. But in the case of decentralization, they don't have any particular centralized person to whom they have to report, but it is a system by which they report and they regulate themselves. And what is human resource management? Now we are going to see human resource management. The concept of human resource management is a term used to describe formal system devised to the management of people within the organization, right? How you are going to manage the workers within the organization is called as the employees of the organization. How we are going to train, how we are going to motivate, how we are going to evaluate their performance, right? What are the compensation that you are going to do within the organization is all called as human resource management. So the three major areas of human resource management is called staffing, employee compensation, defining, designing work. The French Wendell defines personal management is the recruitment, selection, development, utilization, compensation, and motivation of human resources by the organization. See what happened, all the functions, operative functions of human resource management is called as a defined by French Wendell. So what they are talking, you recruit the people, recruit the employee, recruit the applicant, and select them, develop, train them, develop them, utilize them, and then pay for their work, compensate them, and then motivate them to work hard to be promoted in the futures. So all these are called as a personal management. So now we have to see what is the difference between personal management and human resource management. So the basic difference now, personal management is very specific, olden time. The new terms are called as a human resource management. Now we see management of people employed, right? But human resource management, it is not management of the people alone, their skills, their knowledge, and their ability, so that these all these capabilities of the employee can be utilized for the achievement of the organization goal. And in the case of personal management, employees are treated as the economic men, as a service or exchange with salary. They are only treated as, because I'm paying, you are working. That's it. There is no more relationship. There is no further relationship. They are not treated as a social employee, a social animal, but they are only treated like a machine. I'm paying, you are working, like that. But in the case of human resource management, the employees are treated as a economic, social, and psychological men, right? And then employees are viewed as a tool equipment. They are only treated as a machine. I am paying you, you are a machine. If machine is not working, I can throw you. But human resource management, employees are treated as a resources. You are the resource to the company. How you being a human resource, how that can be utilized for the achievement of the organization. Employees are treated as a cost center. It is always a expense to the organization to employ, but human resource always think it is a profit center. If I employ more employees and a qualified employee who can do work in a better way, innovative way, and they can do two persons work, one employee can work, and it is a profit to the organization. Employees used as organization benefit, but employees are used for multi mutual benefit. It is not only for organization. In turn, how the employees are developing themselves for their progress, their career advancement, that is also talked under human resource management. Personnel function is only ancillary, that is secondary function, but HRM is a planned one, is part of management, right? It is part of administrative function. Without HRM, management cannot survive. So that is why planning, organizing, and the third function is called staffing. How you are going to staff the people, staffing, recruitment, selection, all the related activities of the HR is called staffing. And the personal management is only short-term perspective. I take an employee, get the works done, and then I don't bother about social security, safety, and all. I don't bother. But in the case of human resource management, whenever an employee is employed, they are always used for the futuristic purpose. How this employee can be used for future purposes also is considered. How HR functions evolved, right? Functions of HR evolved. So initially, in an initial period, HR functions were considered as a personnel management. What is a personnel management? It is used for payroll and benefits. That's it, nothing else. It is personnel management. See, you are coming, whether you are coming or not, right? How many days you are present, salary is given. How many days you are absent, your salary is deducted. That's it. It is not a comprehensive function, but strategic HR function was developed, including recruitment, learning and development, organization design, total compensation, and communication. And then now at present, what we are having talent management. So talent management talks about competency management. What is the competency of the employees? And then their performance. You always review their performance, and those who are performing well, you promote them, and then you give more tasks, high complex tasks, and then they perform even better. So their performance, based on their performance, you give a succession planning. What is the succession planning? Succession planning is employing the your employees within the organization for the required top level management, right? So top level employees are placed based on the existing resources. Say for example, succession planning, you wanted to have a director research, right? Somebody, your employee who has also done course on a research, a product engineering or a product re-engineering, that same person can be employed as a director research, because you are employee based on the competency of the employee, existing employee, and performance of that employee, you promote them to a top level, is called as a succession planning. And what is the personal management roles of a personal management roles and functions? See, there are four roles. Personal role. What is the personal role? They give advices, advising management effective use of HR. How this HR can be used effectively. Manpower planning, recruitment and selection, and then training and development. How this HR employees trained and developed for not only for their development but also to the achievement of the organization goal, and the measurement and or assessment of individual and group behaviors. And then welfare roles, research in personnel and organization plans, managing services, canteen, grain shops, etc. That is, welfare of the employees are also one of the important role. Clerical role, timekeeping, which what time the employees are coming. But now everything has become online. Now, what do you call, retina based, thumb impression based on electronic based attendance have been evolved, and then salary wage administration, maintenance of records, and then human engineering, man machine relationship, and firefighting and legal grievance handling. If problem arises among the employees or among the trade union and management, how these grievance are handled. And then that is one of the important functions of the management. They balance top as well as the trade unions, management as well as trade union, and settlements of disputes, and then handling disciplinary actions, collective bargaining, joint consultation. Functions of human resource management. See, as we have seen in the definition, what is a definition of human resource management? Is a procurement, development, compensation, maintenance, and motivation of and integration of employees within the organization. That is operative function. And what is a management function? Management function, as we have seen in the management, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. These are the management function. A collaboration of operative function as well as management function, and a combination of these two. What you are giving? You are giving advisory function. HR gives advisory function to the top level as well as departmental level. So top level, what kind of advices they are giving? Formulation and evaluation of HR policies and what is required. All the top level managements, they are giving advices, right? And then what is the surplus, what is the demand, future demands, all the details are policies are framed by HR and given to the top level. What is departmental heads level? So manpower planning, job analysis, job design, all the activities at a department level, because department level means what? Depending on the department's specification, you redefine the qualities and number of people to be employed at the right time, at right place, and right person to be employed. So that is what we have to see. And functions of human resource management, as we have seen, advisory function is based on managerial function as well as operative function. So what are the operative functions? Procurement is there. What is procurement? Job analysis. What is a job analysis? Analyzing the job. So based on what? Job description and job specification. So what we do, so we take a particular job, what are the qualifications required, how this particular job has to be employed, what are the tools, what are the techniques, and what is the technical skills employee should have it to perform a particular job. And human resource planning, that is balancing supply and the demands of the human resources within the organization. Recruitment, you motivate the future, that is future employees to apply for a particular job. That is recruitment. What is the selection? Selection means rejection. What you are rejecting among the recruitment, among the applicant, you select the best one by rejecting the other employees, other applicants. And then after selection, you place the employees in an organization, and then you induce them. Induce means what? Introducing the employee to the organization environment. That is induction. What is orientation? Orientation is applicable to the existing employee. An existing employee need not be give detailed introduction, but what is industry specific, organization specific details only need to be given. You don't need to introduce from A to Z, but only what is different from other organization, that only you give. That is what is called as the orientation. Induction means introduction of an employee. First time you are introducing an employee, that is induction. But existing employee of, see, somebody who works in a TCS and they are coming to Reliance. So already they have experience. You need not teach how to perform the duty, but you have to say what are the difference in which you have to perform your duty. That is what we are seeing in the case of induction and orientation. Transferring the employee from one department to another department. Promotion means what? You promote the employee with either vertical way or a horizontal way. That is with salary, and your responsibility also increases. That is vertical way. In horizontal way, your salary is not increased, but your responsibility keep increasing. Widen your responsibility is called as a horizontal promotion. And what is the separation? Separation from your responsibility. What are the developmental functions? Developmental function basically talks about performance appraisal. After placing the employee, you check their performance, you evaluate their performance. After evaluation, you see you must be identifying some limitations. That limitation can be removed by giving proper training. So what is the training? Training is given to low level and middle level employees, and to top level employees you give executive development. And development is basically of knowledge oriented, but training is basically based on skill oriented. What is career planning and development? So career planning and development, you also develop the careers of the employees within the organization. And compensation, you do job evaluation. Job evaluation means what? You identify the worth of relative jobs, right? Relative worth of the job. So what is the relative worth of job? If an accountant you are appointing, what is his duties? What is his responsibility? What is his qualification? What is paid in the market? Based on that, you evaluate and then you fix the salary. That is what is a job evaluation. Wage and salary administration, bonus and incentives, payrolls, how we are giving bonuses, right? Those kind of things. Integration and motivation. And these are based on a job satisfaction. So what is job satisfaction? See, everyone who is working, they will progress and they will be successful only if they have a job satisfaction, right? Job satisfaction is very important factor of HRM. So job satisfaction, you motivate the employee. So when you motivate the employee, how you are going to motivate? If you perform well, right, you will be promoted, right? So you are motivated. Through that you will get kind of satisfaction. Yes, whatever I'm doing for my betterment. I should not expect a result with immediate effect, but over a period of time I have a more scope to develop personally within the organization, as well as I can go out and get betterment. My more learning will develop me in the future. So that is a job satisfaction. Grievance redressal, collective bargaining, conflict management, participation of employee in decision making. So there are, what happens? The employees are also involved in the company's decision making. That is, management also include the number of employees, a select employees to participate in the decision making. Say, for example, a company wants to promote a new product, right? Launch a new product. So they are asking the employees to give suggestions, right? So that is a collective bargaining, participation of employees, and then taking disciplinary action. Maintenance. What are the maintenance things you have to do? You have to maintain the health of employee, safety, gratuity, provident fund, employees, state insurance, all the social gratuity, right? All those things. Welfare schemes. Welfare schemes comes under, you are providing cab facility, and then ration, shoes, right? All those things. And then personal records. So you have to maintain the personal records of all the employees. When they come, what are their qualification? What are their health, right? Health condition. And after joining, you have to continuous assessment. Based on the continuous assessment, you have to assess their based on the continuous assessment, you have to record everything of the personal information, personal research, and personal audit. So audit relating to HR is called as a personal audit. So now we are going to see what is human resource planning. So human resource planning is same as we have seen in the principles of management, right? Business management. Planning is thinking in advance based on the presumptions. So here, what is the presumptions? We have the employee, we have the presumptions, we have a certainty after 60 years, after 55 years, so and so will retire. So in that period, we have a vacancy. That vacancy needs to be filled now. We have to plan in advance so that you recruit the employee, train the employee, place it at the time when the present employee leaves. Otherwise, what happens? Your workflow will disturb. When workflow disturb, the achievement of the organization goal will be postponed. So that is the reason human resource planning is very, very important, because it's men who connects machine, money, other methods, right? So without men, nothing can be worked, right? So that is the reason manpower planning is manpower planning or HR planning is very, very important. How this is done? So we have an environment. Now you see this choir is an environment. So within the environment, what is their organization objectives and policy? What is the organizational objectives and policies? See, there are few conditions that I can tell you, that at the time of 55, employee will be retired. And on an annual performance appraisal, those who are getting less than 40, 4 grade or 40%, they will be removed, right? And on a disciplinary action, right, so many employees will be removed. So based on the organization objectives and policy, you see two things, that is what is required, need forecast, and what is availability, that is supply forecast. So these supply and forecast is based on the human resource programming, and then you implement the human resource planning, control evaluation of programs, then you get excess is called as a surplus, restricted hiring, related hours, layoff. When you at the time of human resource planning, after implementation, you find for executing one particular work, there are 2 employees working. That means you have a surplus employees working within the organization. Then what you have to go, you have to do restricted hiring. You should not go for hiring, and reduced hour. Don't give 8 hours, give 4 hours, 4 hours, and pay 1 day salary to 2 employees, or you go for a layoff, right? And shortage of recruitment and selection. In case if you have a shortage after HR planning, you have a shortage. One accountant is doing 2 branches accounts, and he having multiple work, and that work you can divide by recruiting and selecting the employee. This is the process of HR planning. So here, what is a recruitment we are going to see? So what is a recruitment? Recruitment means, as I already told, you are motivating and encouraging the future employees to apply for a particular job. So which means what? You are attracting. Why it is attracting? You see in a classifieds of Hindu, attractive salary, right? They always say that your salary is negotiable. Minimum salary ranges this to this. So here it is always attractive. So recruitment, that advertisement is always attractive, and that encourages the applicant to apply for encourage the general public to apply for a particular job. So that is what is called as a recruitment. So there are 2 types of recruitment, sources of recruitment. One is internal source, other one is external source. What is the internal source? Internal source means what? Internally, you get the employees, right, for a particular post. How you transfer from one position to another position, right? So one department to another department, one branch to another branch is called as a transfer. That is internal source of recruitment. And what is a promotion? You promote instead of bringing some third party to the top level. You promote existing employee who is hardworking and whose performance is consistently progressing. Then you promote them. You employ somebody to the lower level, and then you develop an internal advertisement. You give advertisement within the organization, within the department. So the advertisement will be brought. That is employee will bring the referrals, right? That is called as the employee referrals. Lent services. Lent services is equal to intrapreneurs, right? Lent services, you give the existing employee excess work, so they will get the things done through by themselves or by others. Extension of services. So you are extending the services, which means what? You are giving in charge position. So many places you might have seen a manager is also in charge of manager of transport. So in charge positions, and then absorption of training. So trainees will be employed. So existing trainee, internship, those who are doing for internship and apprenticeship, they will be placed in the organization because they are already internal source and they will be made permanent. What are the external sources? Advertisement. Advertisement, what happened? You give advertisement in a news channel, TV, newspaper, so that through advertisement you can recruit. And casual college. What is a casual college? They are the wages, right? It's also called as a gate hiring. What is a gate hiring? Casual, they will be temporarily employed and they will be waiting at the gate, and you employ them, and as soon as work is done you will be sent. And they are why we are paying wages. You don't give any permanent position or a permanent salary, and you don't give any advantages of permanent advantages like gratuity, bonus. All such things will not be given. And the employment exchange. Through employment exchanges, those applicants who have registered with the employment exchanges, you get the information and call the applicant, and then you get the employees, select the employees like that. An educational institution is a placement, is very common one. Every colleges and universities, we have a placement program. So that even institute has a ICSI has a placement program. So through placement programs, the company comes directly in contact with the organization uh, for a specific qualities. So for CSNO, they come, they are in collaboration. Companies are in collaboration with the ICSI, and then they recruit the company secretaries based on their specific needs of the organization. Labor union, through labor union, you give the labor union information about the recruitment, and labor union will help in collaboration with organization. Management, recommendation of the employees. Again, recommendation of the employee will bring their friends and relatives, and you can get the referrals, right? And that is always there in most of the MNC companies. Employee referrals is a very important thing, because if you are bringing if you are bringing a good employee within the organization, those employee who refer, they are given some incentives. And waiting list. See what happened previous recruitment. Now previous recruitment, whatever waiting lists are there, that you promote it. Mostly in a private organization, because of this cost of recruitment process, they go for the last method, otherwise called as a waiting list method. So previously we have a pools of applicants. So from that applicant, you can over the phone you can call them and do it, because you want only one post. For that you have to bring HR panelist, as well as you have to you will scrutinizing, and you have to conduct a selection test. So many things are there, so that it is better to go for a operating waiting list. And what is a selection? Selection itself is rejection. Rejection means what I told you. Rejection means from the pools of applicants, you select a particular employee who are apt for executing the organization work, organization goal, attainment of the organization objective as well as goal. So what are the steps? The 8 steps of the selection process is a preliminary interview. So after preliminary interview, receiving application. So you receive the application from the particular applicant, and then screen the applications. Screening the application means what? What are his qualification and what are his experience, and whether this experience is required, whether he is having additional experience to perform the duty, and in what way a particular applicant is unique from the other applicant. So after screening, you go for an employment test, whether he is fit to perform the particular job or not, and then employment interview, and then checking reference. Checking reference has become very common nowadays, because every application you make, you have to give the reference, because about you, the employer will ask, somebody has to refer you, and your reference will be noted from your person whom you refer. And then after reference check, and then you go for a physical examination, is otherwise called as a medical checkups, medical examination. Then final selection takes place. And what is the difference between training and development? Training, as I have already discussed, training is for middle and a low level, and it is technical based education. But development is for top level management, that is learning and growth, right? So now we can see the definition, meaning of the training and development. It is process of increasing knowledge and skills of an employee, right? Increasing from previous, how you are increasing, how you develop. The training will always increase your knowledge and skills of the employee, technical skills of the employee. But development, it is a process of learning and growth, right? Learning as well as the growth of the top level management. And orientation, it is a job oriented process. Technical means what? It is always related to job, but development is a career oriented one, right? Duration is a short term process. Training is a short term process. 1 week training, 1 month training, maximum 3 months training, 6 month training. but development is over a period of time, right? And then in the case of effect and the objective, it enables the employee to perform the job in a better way. If you have a specific skills, specific knowledge to perform a job, so you can do your you can perform your job activity in a better way. But development, it ensures the overall growth of the employee. Focus focuses on the technical skills, but development focuses on conceptual and human ideas. Levels of training, it is meant for supervisors and laborers, but it is meant for manager level. That is top level. Trainings are used for middle level and low level. Scope, it has a narrow scope. Training goes like this. It is you have a skeleton, you have to go like that only. They don't go out of the way. But development has a wider scope. Wider scope means what? See, when you are doing your you are taking up a particular course, you are doing a BCom, you are after your +2, then you are also thinking you want to do company secretary course. So here what happened, over a period of time, you have a wider scope now. You are doing BCom as well as you are doing CS. So you have a multiple options to be performed. And now what are the types of training? So training, there are two types of training. One is on the job training, off the job training. On the job training means along with the working environment, you will be placed and you will be trained. Off the job training, you will not be within the organization, within the environment of the organization, but you will be away from the organization factory, you will be trained. So now we see what are the methods of training. First one is vestibular training. Vestibular training means what? Artificial one. Artificial means what? It is same like a factory, but it is not factory. But employees will be trained under the given environment. You have to work, get the training. Apprenticeship is always used for technical skills like aircraft, shipment. So those kind of things, you have to have a technical, that is apprenticeship. So apprenticeship is used only for specific skills oriented. And coaching and training by supervisors. Coaching is for specialized skills, right? Specialized skills they are giving in the case of coaching by supervisor. Supervisor will give you coachings. So what you have to do, how you have to do, the training will be given by the supervisor. Orientation, induction, I have already said orientation is for existing employee. Induction is for new employee who is introduced to a job, who is introduced to the company. Understudy training. So training is given under the supervision of the employer or a supervisor or a manager. And job rotation training. Job rotation, what happens? You will be rotated from all the functions, all the departments of the accounts, right? And then assistance to us, a training method. So you will be appointed as an assistant to give training methods, and then teaching machine method. So how you are going to operate the machine through teachings. So that is what is all called a on the job training. What is off the job training? Off the job training, you see, you conduct a conference, lectures, seminars, etc. So where you will have experts who will come and elaborate on the particular activities, events, and where the employees will get the basic conceptual knowledge. And internship training. Internship, what happened? Internship is again, you will get internship. You will go and work in a company. It's a part of your education, part of your curriculum, and discussion and classroom training. So you will be given a particular problem, and you will be given what will be your future. So those kind of things, discussion will be there, and classrooms trainings will be taking place after job training. Case study method. Case study method, what happened? You see, a company's profit and loss account balance sheet will be given. So they will be asked to study the case and then give the proper solution and to take a decision. In case if you are a company secretary, see in most of the company secretary examinations, so what they are asking, as a company secretary, suggest the director what to do with respect to compliance of MSME, payment to MSME. And then role playing, you will be given a role, and you are asked to play what will you do if you become the HR manager? What will you do if there is a fire in the office? What will you do? How will you perform? So what will be your reactions? And then management institutions, they take up a lot of activities, that is management games, and then brainstorming activities. They give mental related activities, psychological related, that is again brainstorming. they give under a situation how the how the employees perform, right, based application of their mental activities. And then sensitivity training, a employee is assessed based on a multiple training, multiple situations. So that is sensitivity of the reaction. So there is a concept called stress interview. So sensitivity training is used that under given situation, if you have a if you have a more stress, what is your behavior. So are you stressed out, whether you lose your mood. So those things are studied under sensitivity training. So succession planning, as I already told you, succession planning, that what you do, succession plan summarizes the candidates of candidates availability and readiness. So you see the present employees, the pool of present employees and their capabilities of performing the top level management, and you identify and then you post them to the top level management, is called as a succession planning. And performance appraisal. What is the performance appraisal? Performance appraisal is appraising the performance of the employee. So how you are going to assess the appraise the performance. So there are two methods. One is traditional method, other one is modern method. So traditional method, what happens? Simple ranking method. So ranking means what? You rank the employee based on their performance, right? Who is outperforming one, who is next to first, second, third, like that you rank. And paired comparison, you pair, they compare based on the comparison, past and a present, and employee is compared with the other employee, and then you are pairing them. So then you get a performance appraisal, and you grade them, grading based on their performance. Forced distribution. So forced distribution, what happened on a 5-point scale, right? And on an average, right? It is forced distribution. Your marks are normally distributed, right? Bell-shaped curve. In a statistics, you might have studied bell-shaped curve. There, what happened? 0 to 10%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%. What is this performance? So you are forced to distribute the conditions, the performance of the employees in a normal distribution curve. And forced choice method, you will be given a choice, the four choice, and are given a situation and given a condition, what is the performance of the employee. Checklist method, you will be given a checklist that what is discipline, coming to the office, is behavior with the supervisors, right? Is motivation, and how many days leaves he has taken, right? All these things checklist wise you select, and then you check your performance. Critical incident. Critical incidents. In a critical incident, how the particular employee performed. You see, during the COVID, there are employees, some employees going to the office, some employees are working within the work from home. So in a critical situation, the reaction, the behavior of the employees are assessed. An essay method, so about the employee, the supervisor are asked to write an essay. So based on the essays, so you will be asked to pick up the positive and the negative sides of the employees. Then you assess their performance. Field review. Field review on the day of working. So the supervisor will go and check on the particular given day. On a given day, what is the performance of the employee on the spot. And then confidential report, mostly in a government organization, takes place. The supervisor, without the knowledge of the employee, and then they give confidential report about the employee. And Peter F. Drucker, he has coined a concept called management by objective. Management by objective philosophy is that, you know, if all the activities of the company, organization should be reported to the management. Every activity, every success, every failure need to be reported. What is management by exception? Exception defines that only those activity which are out of the goal, out of the objectives of the organization, that needs to be reported. That is exceptional situation only needs to be reported. But in the case of MBO, contrary to the MBE, that is, you have to report everything to the top level management. Behaviorally anchored rating skills. So the ratings of the employees are based on their behavior of the employees. And assessment centers. So assessment centers, basically what they do, they assess the employee performance and then they give the report. 360-degree appraisal. So what is a 360-degree appraisal? The 360-degree appraisal, the particular employee's performance is not only assessed with supervisor, but also entire organization. That is with security, to the top level management, to the co-workers. So all round. That is why it is 360-degree appraisal. And now recently there is one more concept called 720-degree performance appraisal. What is 720-degree performance appraisal? They might ask you this question now because this is a new concept. So what they are talking about, in a case of 720-degree performance appraisal, it is not internal assessment alone, but external also. Competitors, suppliers, other external sources also, you get opinion from their previous employers. So that is 720-degree performance appraisal. 360 is within the organization. 720 is not only within the organization but also external. Cost accounting method. Cost accounting method. No, the performance appraisal based on your performance, whether you have brought any benefits to the organization. So based on that, you are assessed. So with this, the 4 units of business management, ethics, and communication, entrepreneurship comes to an end. Now we'll go with the question and answers one by one, right? And now we'll go with the last one. This video will upload on a YouTube or not? Yes, it will be uploaded, and you can see that. And then sir, please start slowly. You see that because of the timing only I went little fast. You can go through YouTube and it will be available there. And open 20. Will notes be also provided? This PPT, if you want, I can forward to the sir, and I don't know how to reach you. But the thing is, it will be available on a YouTube so that you can get it. Wait one more thing, and then chat box. What are the things are there? All panelists. Okay. Thank you. We want PPT, whatever possible. But how to see the previous things? Okay. Lent services, please explain again. So Lent services, you are giving, Lent means what? Your work you are giving to the external organization, right? Your own employee is there. Your own employee's friend, relative, you give excess work, they will go home, finish the work and bring it. So that is a Lent services. Would you please send this PPT through me? That is, I don't have answer for that. Hello, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, நான் ஒரு கிளாஸ்ல இருக்கிறேன். நான் உங்களுக்கு கால் பண்ணிட்டேங்களா ஒரு half an hour கழிச்சு? I'm in a class. And then what is a weigh decision criteria? Weigh decision criteria, you are weighing. That is, you are giving weightage to the decision criteria. That is weigh, right? Weighing decision criteria. How strategy, a single use plan. So strategy, you know, why it is single plan? It's a very good question. Strategy can be used for a single as well as permanent, right? A long standing plan. So mostly strategy is used for a particular specific event, right? See, whatever strategy during the COVID we are taking, right? Work from home, we are not going to adopt this work from home forever. So this strategy, because to address this particular situation, we are using it. And then please keep changing the slides. Oh, okay. Can you please make difference between first point of planning, importance and limitation? Okay, I have to go back to the slide. Okay, 1 minute. See, planning reduces uncertainty. See, to some extent, to maximum extent, it reduces uncertainty. Yes, to some extent you can predict it, but whatever you're predicting, it is not sure about it, right? So that is a difference between first point of importance and limitations. And what are the things that please explain intellectual process functioning of planning? So what is the intellectual process? So planning, you need to have a knowledge, right? So what is the knowledge you need to have about the planning, about your conceptual skills, right? Strategic skills and human resource skills, as well as the technical skills you need to have. Without that, you cannot plan it. So that is the intellectual process. So planning is always intellectual process. Without you intellectually, that is mentally, analytically, you use your brain, right? You cannot plan. So sensibly you have to plan. So that is why it is this one. Sir, about managerial roles. Managerial roles, yes, we have seen in the case of managerial roles. What are the managerial roles? Planning, organizing, right? Those are the managerial roles. Thoda Hindi, I don't know. Sorry for that. And sir, please change the slide. We can't see the content. Okay, wait 1 minute. Screen is blurred. Yes, some screens are like that because I have referred previous slides from the Google. And screen is blurred. What are the questions? Please, sir, please, comfortable language. Samjho, please. I don't know Hindi, so I'm so sorry for that. I think I have addressed the questions. Oh, maybe 15%. Okay, I'm happy for that. The functions of an organization, functional organization. Functional organization structure is based on the functions of the organization. Very simple. What are the functions of an organization? Production, procurement, and then research and development, marketing, sales, R&D. So based on a particular specific functions of organization, the organization structure is defined. That is why it is called as a functional organization. What is your YouTube channel? That is ICSI channel only, my YouTube channel. So the video will be uploaded. So isn't it vegetable training off the job as it is mentioned in the ICSI material? You see, in the ICSI material, it is mentioned off the job training, but it is also considered. See, if you are studying for examination purpose, you take up it is off the job only. But the recent researches talks about, because the environment of the organization is made available for the employee.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Actually, there is another session from 2 p.m. Need to stop this session, sir.
Okay, sir. I think most of the questions that I have addressed it. I think thank you so much for your patience hearing, and I also thank ICSI Noida chapter for giving an opportunity. Thank you so much.